What it do, bruh? Talk of the town, Nintendo, Doc Trey, still holding it down, still make the best games, and you know this, bro. It's the truth. You don't like it, you can have that seatbelt.
Alright, so this whole Nintendo Switch cart thing is pretty crazy. And I've been giving my last video a bit of thought. And no, Warner Brothers is not off the hook. But I just been thinking, is it fair? Is it fair for Nintendo Switch Multiplats to cost more money than PlayStation 4 and Xbox One? Is it fair? Now, we know for a fact that Nintendo Switch carts cost more money to manufacture than a Blu-ray disc. This is a fact. What we don't know is how much more it is, and if it's a significant amount or a small, trivial amount. Now, according to some people in the know, it's more, but it's definitely not $10 more. But even based on that, we don't know if these people are talking about the difference in price of a 32 gig cart versus Blu-ray, or they could have been talking about a 16 gig cart versus Blu-ray, because at that time, most people were under the impression that 16 gigs was the max. So they could have been talking about the manufacturing cost of the 16 gig versus Blu-ray not being that much. What we need to know is how much the difference really is. Now, we've been pointing the finger at either the third-party publisher, Nintendo, but honestly, until we know how much that cost difference actually is, we can't really say much, honestly. Now, back to the topic at hand. Is it fair, based on what we know, is it fair for Nintendo Switch games to cost more than the other systems' multiplats? We know that it costs more to manufacture the Switch carts versus Blu-ray, right? Now, a lot of people will say, well, of course you have to pay more. It costs more, right? We have the N64 was on cartridge base. On average, the games cost more than the PlayStation 1, right? But people didn't have a big issue with that because N64 games looked better than PlayStation 1 games. But that graphics difference wasn't the reason why those games cost so much more. But here's the crazy part. Even though N64 games cost more than PlayStation 1 games at the time, they didn't cost a ton more given the vast difference in manufacturing. For those of you that are younger, which would probably be most of you, back then, manufacturing a PlayStation 1 game cost about $2 per disc. On the N64, those carts were $28 a piece for the first few years of the first at least 3 years of the N64's life. So you see there, that's a dramatic difference. Yet, the difference in price between the PlayStation 1 games and the N64 games was not that same difference. So for the Nintendo Switch games to cost like $10 more or whatever, more than the other ones, it seems like that's kind of steep given what we're assuming the difference is, which is probably a few dollars. That's what we're assuming it is. Could be right or wrong. Now, for the people that believe, hey, the carts cost more, the game should cost more. Like, why should the customer Why should Nintendo or why should the third-party publisher have to eat the cost? Well, let me bring up this point here. When the PlayStation 3 first launched, it was the only console where games were on Blu-ray discs. The Wii and the 360 both used DVDs. Blu-ray discs at that time cost more to manufacture than a DVD, at least twice as much. Yet, PlayStation 3 games did not cost more than Xbox 360 games, now did they? If there's not that much of a difference in price between the manufacturing, maybe they should eat the cost. Maybe it's worth it for them to eat the cost, if not just for the games to sell better and not have bad press like they're getting now. But again, the question is, should they have to? Is that fair? Now, with the Nintendo Switch, you're technically getting 2 games because you have a game you can play at home and you can have a game that you can play on the go. Now, the fact that you can do that, is that worth an extra $5 or $10 to you? Should that be justified based on the fact that you can do that and you can't do that on the other systems? But then again, that's the entire hook of the system in the first place. So should we have to pay extra for something that was advertised for the system to begin with? That's the question. Let me know what you guys think. I'm still undecided on this whole thing now, because there's just too many variables to think about. I think we need to some of these Nintendo insiders out here, some of y'all niggas need to find out how much the manufacturing cost is versus Blu-ray between the different sizes of the carts, so we can get a better picture of what's going on and who to point the finger at, if any. Let me know what you guys think.